Hey, welcome everybody. We are just waiting for everyone to join. I see a few still connecting to audio, so I will wait for those to clear out so everybody can hear us as we get started. So we are on day 2 now officially. So hopefully yesterday went well. If there's any questions you have about employee setup or cash management, you can still ask those today. You can type them in the chat or just wait till the end of the session and get those questions answered. But we are moving on to a whole different topic today, and we are going to dive right in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And today is going to be all about everyone's favorite topic, inventory. So it is extremely important that we show you guys this stuff. I know inventory, and especially counting inventory, isn't always the most exciting, but we hope by the end of today's session, we'll at least give you the tools and the resources to make this as exciting as it possibly can be and as easy as it can possibly be if you try to use the counter app that we're going to show you later. So I'm going to just go ahead and dive right into today's agenda. In just a second, like yesterday, I will review the pre-work that we've asked for you to complete prior to today. Then we're going to give you a quick crunch time overview, show you the different applications that make up crunch time, some of the ones you use, some of the ones you will not use. But again, we'll give you an overview of what that looks like. The NetChef dashboard, Dan's going to navigate you through that ton of information that's available there. And that's really going to be your main landing page for all of the functionality that you're going to be using within the system. He's then going to take you through sequencing and setting up different and secondary storage locations to make the process of counting inventory a lot quicker and easier. Then he'll show you DCP and CML invoices, how to receive those if you have to, and setting up a simple receipt. Also, waste and inventory adjustments if you ever need to enter those into the system. After that, I'm going to walk you through how items deplete through the POS. Also going to show you how you can set up key counts, which essentially what you're going to be doing every week, and how you're going to be using different templates to do those to make it a little bit easier. Also, I'll show you how to enter your full counts in the system. And then the last step, which is to close everything out, which is to review, analyze, and post your inventory. Then I'm going to also walk you through the Counter app, which is an application on your phone. Some of you may have downloaded it already. And then finally, we will wrap up the session, and any other questions you have, you can ask them, and we'll talk about some next steps. All right, so on to the pre-work. I'm not going to read through every single thing here, but like always, we had some new courses that we requested you to take. They are in line with today's topics for the session, and those topics are all about inventory. So hopefully you had a chance to review some of those courses. And then the bottom of the screen here, you're going to see what we asked you to bring to the session. So again, big thing here is your NetChef login credentials. So hopefully you're able to log into NetChef on your computer or tablet that we've asked you to have here today as well. Maybe you had a chance to, not necessarily a must, but definitely would be nice if you could log in and look at the Counter app while we're talking about it. So we've asked you to have that. The next one is a picture of your stockroom. So Dan's going to be talking about sequencing and setting up your sequences to match what your stockrooms look like. Everybody's is going to be different. So if you have some pictures and you're sitting in front of your computer, when we get to that demonstration and then even more so the practice, you're able to take those pictures and use it to guide how you're setting up your sequencing in the system. Also now after that, NetChef Inventory User Guide. We're going to be referencing that. I know we have some volunteers that we've already have listed, so we'll be asking you to walk us through a ton of the steps today. The mobile app user guide, I'll be referencing that when I talk about the Counter app. Already talked about this, but the NetChef login credentials, extremely important to have those. Again, your computer or your laptop or your tablet. And then there's one other thing that that's not necessarily listed here, but I also have the ability to just real quick read from it if I have to, which is the labor guide. There's a NetChef labor guide. You're only using it for one thing, which is sales forecasting, which I'm going to cover on the very, very end of today's session. So I'll have those pages, and I think I have a volunteer that's ready to help me out if I need to with that as well. So that's all of the pre-work. Some of the things we hope you have sitting in front of you as we dive into the session. And we are just going to keep on moving into the overview of crunch time. So crunch time applications that are available, you can see listed here. And you've probably heard this, or you may not have, but we use this analogy or this example every single time we talk about crunch time. And we liken crunch time to Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office is a suite of applications. Microsoft Office contains Word, it contains PowerPoint, it contains Microsoft Excel. Each of those specialize in different functions. Well, crunch time is the same way. Crunch time is a suite of applications. And within crunch time, you have Enterprise Manager, you have NetChef, you have Teamworks, and you have BizIQ. Today, we're going to be focusing all in NetChef. So we're going to be focused in NetChef today, where again, Dan's going to take you through the dashboard. We're going to talk about inventory management and sales forecasting within NetChef. You can see again here all of the other applications within CrunchTime and the different apps that also tie into CrunchTime. Counter app being one of those, because that's going to be the app that potentially saves you guys a ton of time as you're entering inventory into the system. All right, so a bulk of today is going to be all about demonstration and practice. Dan's going to take it from here for a little bit. I'll be back with you guys a little bit later as we get into some of the other topics. So Dan, it's all yours. Take it away.
All right, I got off mute before anybody could say, Dan, you're still on mute. All right, hey, good afternoon, good morning, I guess still. My name's Dan Hopkins. I'm the Senior Manager of Field Learning for the South Central and Central Atlantic regions. And I work with Sean and Jess on the RSVP project as well. So glad to be here to take you guys through a couple of these demonstrations when it comes to inventory. So Sean, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll go ahead and pull up mine. We are going to start out. There we go. You seeing it now? Okay, we're going to start out on the NetChef dashboard. So as Sean mentioned, everybody's favorite topic is inventory. I'm kind of a training nerd, so I actually do like training inventory. Of all the topics with RSVP, this is probably the one I like the most, just because I've been taking inventory since I was 16, and we've come a long way in how easy this is and the tools we have. I remember being in the freezer with hand count sheets, trying to get, you couldn't take a break till your pen froze and the ink was frozen. You couldn't draw anymore. So I've been doing this a long time, and I think the tools we're going to share with you over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so is they're going to help out a lot. So we're going to start here with an overview of the NetChef dashboard. So I know you guys are adept at using your annotation tools, and I know you did your pre-work, which one of those was the U course on the NetChef dashboard. So I'm logged in here as Ken Morrison. He's another field learning manager in one of our training environments. This is what a manager would see when they logged into NetChef. So using your annotation tool, either your arrow or your stamp or something, if I needed to navigate out of the NetChef dashboard and go to another application within NetChef, where might I, or within CrunchTime, where would I click on to do that? All right, Christina's on it already. Good job. Let's see who else is paying attention.
They were scribbling pretty good yesterday, so I know they know how to use annotation.
Christina gave you a hint, and I'll give you guys another hint. If you look on page 7, you guys can follow along with this overview of the dashboard. Page 7 of the inventory section of your guide. And you can see here, it's this little 4-box orange dot here. If I click on this, it actually will allow me to go from NetChef to Teamworks. And if I were in Enterprise Manager, it would allow me to go from Enterprise Manager to NetChef or Teamworks. So in this case, it just allows you to navigate back and forth. The next button here, this question mark, this is the support center. So there's a couple of things you can do within here. One is the actual support center, where you can just go in and search by topic of what you're trying to do, and it will give you the step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Your user's guide will fill that need as well. So will the U courses, right? The little bite-sized U courses you can go and take for anything you want. But that's one support feature they've got. The other one is the Show Me How button, and the Show Me How feature. The Show Me How feature actually works as you type in what you want to do, and it will actually tell you and walk you through where to put your cursor to make that happen. So it's a little bit of a different approach. It's not just hey, here's the steps, go do it. It'll tell you, hey, click here, and then it'll wait for you to click in that spot. Just a different approach to getting things done. I suggest you give it a shot next time you want to try something out. But there's a couple of ways to get support right here from the dashboard. This next one here, I think everybody knows what that button means. It's pretty common throughout navigating most sites where you have to log in. This is the log out button. So you can see here, it's pretty simple. Just click it and it would log you out. If I'm a multi-unit manager and I have access to multiple locations, if I wanted to change my location, I could just go here, click under my name, this drop down, and would allow me to navigate between PC numbers within here. I'm just going to leave it here for now, but that's how you would change without having to log out and log back in. Okay, across the top here, we've got some drop-down menus. You can see as I click on each one, if I click on the dashboard, it brings me straight there. If I click on purchasing or inventory or labor, it brings me up things that can be done within those drop-down menus. And I'll show you another way of navigating through here in just a second. But as you can see, you can just put your cursor on and click, and it'll give you different steps throughout. We'll do a lot of these today. Okay, this is today's task. So the today's task report basically is telling a manager, these are the steps that require your attention. You can see there's two here, vendor order receive and inventory account that we've got ready to go for this activity. Some of these other activities you see here, register sales missing, menu mix sales files missing, that has to do with us being in a training environment. Pay it no mind. You will only see things that you need to actually take care of listed right here under today's task. So as a manager, pretty simple to remember before I leave for the day. These are the things that need to be done. Okay, the next report on the dashboard is the performance metrics report. You can see here we've got a breakdown of each day, what our sales are, last year's same sales. We can look at our labor percentage. Well, I actually, if you're using it as a time clock, you could. I don't believe you guys are. So it just gives you some of your sales information here to see how you're doing on the day. Scroll down a little further. Here's a different way to navigate within NetChef. So we've got what we call quick links. So you've got inventory quick links, labor quick links, and some external site quick links. It just takes you to the most commonly used items in the drop-down menus. So under inventory in the drop-down, the things we use the most are creating the CML invoice, making adjustments, posting your inventory. You can see there's a few things in here. We could just go right here and use these quick links, just a different way of navigating. And same for labor, and then same for your external sites. So you can see here, we've got the release notes from the spring software release. It'll tell you what's different. So anytime there's a new release to the software, you'll see the release notes here. So you can just click on them and it'll say, hey, here's some changes we made with this new release. You've got links to the U, you've got links to the DCP, Jira, Peros, all of that information is right here from your external sites quick links. All right, we're going to scroll down a little further and you'll see we've got, again, today's operating metrics. It gives you sales information based on whichever time frame you want. So we call this real-time information. Real-time in crunch time terms is about 15 minutes behind when it was rung in. So it's pretty close to real time, and we can run it by the hour, or we can run it by the half hour, or you can even run it all the way down to 15-minute increments and see what your forecasted sales were, what your actual sales were, and the variance. Kind of see how am I performing against what the sales forecast said I should be doing for the day. So pretty cool metrics here that you can, again, change to whatever you're trying to see, whatever view you want, 15 minutes, 30, or an hour. Okay, we've got a couple of tile reports here. Just a quick glance at how the store is doing from a sales and labor perspective, week to date for the day. We've got some sales trend numbers over here to the right. This is one of my favorite charts. If I'm a restaurant manager, I can see what are my actual sales, what was forecasted, and what did I do last year? So am I building on what my sales were same day last year? That's what SDLY stands for. So this, if you look at Sunday, here's my actual sales, here's what I forecasted, and here's what I did same day last year. So just a quick glance at how the store is doing from a year-over-year basis. And then our last two reports are our top 10 menu mix items. So this is going to show basically what are my top 10 items that I sell, and then your top 10 actual versus theoretical. So these are the items that are going to show what have your greatest variance, whether negative or positive. Those items will show up here. You can see for us, hash browns, it's saying we have an actual of $88.71 and a theoretical of $6.33. So there's an $82 variance on this product. So it's listing that as our number one item. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the dashboard. Again, pages 7, 8, 9 show kind of walk you through the same steps. So if you want to see what anything does, you can review back to those items there. All right, time to get into our first step, which is sequencing and assigning secondary storage locations. So Sean, do we have a volunteer for this section?
We do, and it was a volunteer we had yesterday, so I'm hoping we have no issues coming off of mute, and it's Rox or Roxy again. And yesterday, I think Roxy was listed under Christina Donuts. So, Roxy, are you there for us again today? And you can chat in if you can hear me and you're unable to talk, and we'll try to figure something out. We also had another volunteer, Joe Belanger. He was set up next, but Joe, are you able to come off of mute and help us out?
Okay, Christina Donuts, that must be Roxy. Roxy, can you hear us? Are you able to come off mute and talk?
I'm going to ask to unmute you. So hopefully you have the ability to chat with us. If you're logged into Zoom with your phone, if you tap your screen, it will pull up the mute icon on the bottom left for you to talk.
All right, I'm here. Sorry, it's through my phone.
All right.
Hey, all right.
I thought it was #6, but it's *6.
Ah,
Okay.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you,
All
Roxy. I
right.
appreciate it. So just
Yeah,
to give you
absolutely.
just to give you a heads up, we are going to be on page 19 in the inventory users guide. The top of the
Absolutely,
page,
getting there.
top of the page should say product storage.
Perfect, I got it.
Okay. So the reason we're going to go through this is, and again, I'll go back to the old days when we used to get pre-printed sheets and you had to just kind of go with how it was laid out. We have the ability now to sequence our storage locations to match our how the freezer, let's say, is laid out. When I take inventory, I like to look at a shelf like a book page. I start in the upper left corner and I go left to right, and then I come down a line, I go left to right, I come down, I go left to right. So I count a shelf like that. People count in different ways. Some people count the entire top shelf all the way around, then go to the next shelf. However you plan to count, you want to set your storage locations in crunch time up to match the layout of your freezer, your stock room, your walk-in. So that's what we're going to do now. Storage locations are generally assigned based on how the product comes from the DCP. So I'm going to give you an example of eggs. Where do you think eggs are going to come in from the DCP? What do you think the primary storage location would be for a case of eggs coming off the truck from the DCP? And just go ahead and use the chat feature. Anybody can type in here. Robin says the freezer. Dunkin' Donuts 339443 says the freezer. Absolutely. So eggs are a perfect example. Heidi, thank you. Freezer. Their primary storage location is going to be the freezer. However, where else do you find eggs within the restaurant? And again, use the chat feature. Good, good. So Nasir said sandwich station. Robin, sandwich station. Heidi, sandwich station. Christina, walk-in. We've also got fridge and sandwich station from DD339443. So you guys know there's multiple spots where you're going to find eggs. So a couple things we have to do. The first one is we have to sequence our storage location to match our report, and then we have to assign secondary storage locations for products that have multiple spots that they're going to be in. So let's get started. Roxy, on the top of page 19, what does it say? Step number 1 is to assign secondary storage locations.
Go to inventory on dashboard.
Okay.
And then inventory setup.
Inventory setup. Okay. So when I open up this screen, you'll see the first thing I've got here is a drop-down menu that gives me all my different storage locations. So before we get started here, I'm actually going to show you guys how to sequence before we get into assigning secondaries. So I use the freezer as an example, right? So if I click on the freezer item, it brings up everything in the freezer at once. Okay, so we've got sausage, turkey sausage, hash browns, eggs, etc. Now let's just say in this example, if the first item in the upper left corner of my shelf that I'm going to start counting with is not sausage, but it's English muffins. I want to move that product to the first spot. All I have to do is type in a number prior to number 1. So in this example, since sausage already has the number 1 spot, I'm going to use a decimal point and put in 0.9. When I hit the sequence button again, it pulls English muffin up to the top spot. If you were to put in a number that matches another number, it doesn't know which one you want to be 1. It's going to leave the 1 there and put it right behind the next one. So if I wanted to, let's say the next item on my lists were the multigrain, well, let's go with Texas toast was number 2. I could just put in here, what number in the chat, what number do you think I need to put in for Texas toast to make it show up second behind English muffin? 1.5 would work. 1.9 would work. Yeah, any number between 1 and 2 would work. So I'm going to go to Texas toast, type in 1.2, click on here, and sequence. And there's Texas toast is now second on my list. So you could do this one item at a time like that, or you don't have to keep doing one item, hit sequence. You could sequence multiple items. So if I went and put this at 3, and this one at 4, and this one at 5, and hit sequence, it'll move all 3 of them at once. Okay. Pretty simple process for that right there. All right, so hang on to that because you're going to get a chance to do that in just a second. I'm going to go back to Roxy, and Roxy, we're actually going to show them now how do we add items to a secondary storage location, and I think we're going to use sandwich station. So we're step 3. Roxy, what does step 3 say?
Select desired storage location.
You can see here on the list when I click this drop down for storage locations, what's a primary and what's a secondary storage location. I'm going to click on sandwich station. Oh, see, I got a warning here that's saying, are you sure you want to move without saving your changes? I'm going to hit OK. I don't need to save. You guys will save. Make sure you save before you go. But it's nice that it gives you that warning. Okay, for our environment, you see in our secondary storage locations, we've only got 2 items, sausage and turkey sausage. Step 4 says, if we wanted to put another product in here, what do we need to do?
Hit the add symbol.
There it is, a little plus sign right here. We're going to hit the add symbol, and it's going to bring up all the products available for me to put into this secondary storage location. Okay. Rather than trying to scroll through and search for them all, Roxy, what do I need to do? Step 5.
Just go to select the filter icon, the funnel filter icon.
So you see this little funnel filter icon right here. If I click on that, it's going to allow me to search product by name. We all agree that we need to put eggs into our secondary storage location of the sandwich station. When searching, so first of all, 2 things. I don't like that they put product number first because I can't tell you how many times I've typed egg into product number, and that won't work. So make sure you go into the product name, and when searching, less is more. So if you're looking for eggs, it's not necessarily always going to come up because if it's not plural, it's going to say that it can't find it. So I'm just going to search the word egg and see what comes up. All right, if I had put in eggs, egg fried would not have showed because there's no S on it. So again, just a tip, when searching, fewer characters is better than more. You see it brought up things like veggie because that's got EG in it. And same here with the breakfast bowl, egg and sausage. So we want to put the fried egg and the omelet veggie into our secondary storage location. How do we do that? That would be step number 8.
Click on the product to highlight it blue.
All right, y'all see that's highlighted in blue? What's next?
Click on the up arrow.
Click on the up arrow and look at that. Now fried eggs have shown up into our secondary storage location. So if we wanted to do the same thing, we would just go back to step 8, highlight it in blue, hit the up arrow. Okay.
So quick question, we can't do 2 things at once, right? So you said the eggs and the veggie eggs were in the same thing. You can't send them all up at once?
Great question. And yes, you can. You can use the control button, make a multiple selection, and move them both up.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No problem. Now that we've got these items up there, what if they're not in this order? We wanted to change them. We could just sequence them. And let's say that fried egg is number 3, and then veggie cream cheese is 4. Pull this down a little bit so we can see all the products. That's 5, and this is 6. Oops. And hit sequence, and it'll readjust them the way we want them. So pretty simple process to put items into your secondary storage locations. You know how to sequence them now. That's also a pretty easy process. Just a quick note, everything will come, 99% of items will come with an assigned primary storage location. Every once in a while you get something that won't, like an LTO item or something, but for the most part, they'll all come with their primary storage locations. If not, you might have to just tell the system where it wants that product. And when we talk about receiving DCP orders, I'll show you how to do that as well. All right, let me just make sure we hit everything we needed to hit on for this item here. I think we're good. So what we're gonna do now is actually give you guys about 10 minutes to go through and either sequence a storage location. I know one of the items we asked you to bring was a picture of a storage location. You can sequence, or you can start building your secondary storage locations, but practice doing what we just showed you. Again, starting on page 19, and don't forget saves to hit step 10, which is the save button when you're done with your work. We'll give you about a 2-minute warning so you can wrap up what you're doing and hit save before we get into our next topic. But I got 11:58 right now, so at 12:08 we'll come back. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to either chat them in or just come off mute and ask. All right, it's 12:06. So this is your 2-minute warning. Make sure you wrap up what you're doing and don't forget to hit that save icon. We'll be starting in 2 more minutes. All right, you got about 30 seconds left. All right. Don't forget to hit that save icon. And before we get on to our next task, go ahead and put in the chat what you were able to get done there. Were you able to sequence a storage location? Were you able to add all your items to a secondary location? Tell us what you were able to get done in that 10-minute period. Excellent. Heather got the freezer and walk-in done. Nazir got the walk-in freezer, walk-in cooler, add and sequenced. Andrew, Robin got primary location in the freezer. So you guys, good. We just like to see, Sean and I like to see that you're actually taking what we're doing, what we're teaching, and implementing it right away. It's the benefits of doing these. We can actually get these done right through it. Oh, great question. How do you remove an item that we don't use? You don't. It'll drop off on its own after 10 weeks of non-use. So an item we don't use, again, it'll drop off after it hasn't had any activity for 10 weeks. The suggestion we give to you guys is if there's an item you don't use, put it into a do not count category or move it to the bottom of the page so it doesn't end up somewhere, in the middle of a storage location. Just move it all to the bottom so when you're done counting, any items you don't carry will just be at the bottom of your screen or of your page and you won't have to worry about it. But it will drop off over time as long as you're not putting any information in. You're not receiving it, you're not counting it, and you're not ringing it up. It'll drop off. Great question. Okay, Rox, thank you so much for being our volunteer there. Joe, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Ooh, Joe's got some serious feedback.
How is that? Is that better?
Oh, much better. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So this isn't your first rodeo. You knew exactly what to do. All right. Very good. So Joe, just to give you a heads up, we're going to be, when I get there, we're going to be on page 25. Top of the page should say receiving electronic vendor orders.
Yes, I'm there.
All right. Excellent. And Sean, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, go back to crunch time. Okay. And the first step, it says from the dashboard. Let me go back to dashboard. it says to go to today's tasks. So Joe, I just gave the first 2 steps, but I just want to stop there before we get going. Then I'll hand it off to you.
Okay.
You are only going to see vendor order received in today's tasks if this invoice needs some attention from the manager. There's only 2 cases where the invoice needs attention. One is there's a product on this invoice that does not have a storage location assigned to it. Like I said, 99% of the items do, but every once in a while, you're going to get something on there that doesn't have a storage location assigned to it. And it's telling you, you can't reconcile this invoice until you tell it where this product goes. And we'll show you how to look for that. The second one is it's giving you a warning that there's something on the DCP invoice that is 50% higher than the bid price when it was configured. So it just means that there's been a larger than normal price change to an item. There's nothing you can do about it. You don't change it. You won't change the price. It's just alerting you in case it is a mistake. You can bring it back to the DCP. But for the most part, it happens with lower priced items that come up in cost. Sometimes you'll see it show up in red. And hopefully this one will have one. We can show you what that looks like as well. But again, if neither of those 2 things have happened, you won't see vendor order receive in today's tasks. It will automatically be received and those products will automatically be added to your inventory. But in our case, you can see, and again, our due date here says 10/21. We're actually behind in this training environment. We go back and set up tasks so that we can do multiple sessions a week and not get ahead of ourselves. So you can see we're still about a month behind. So back on October 21st, we have a DCP order that we need to receive. So Joe, pick us up on step number 3.
Okay, step number 3, select vendor order receive for the order you're going to reconcile.
All right. It's popping up the order here. Okay, next step.
Confirm the actual delivery date is accurate.
So this yellow box up here, it's just saying this is the actual delivery date correct. This could affect some of your key counts. If the dates are wrong, it'll put it in at the wrong time, but just make sure that the date you received it is right. It should be right most of the time. All right, next step.
Step number 5, adjust physical quantity if applicable.
All right, so you can see here, it's got kind of our recap information here. It's got general ledger names and amounts for different categories of products, and it's got our invoice total here. To get this out of the way, you can see if you move your cursor right here on the line, you can drag that line down so we can see more of our products. The physical quantity box is editable. So let's just say 5-pound bagel bags. We didn't get 3, we only got 2. Okay. So reviewing the physical quantity, we've changed the 3 to 2. All that's done is change the inventory amount. That has not told the DCP that you need a credit for whatever reason that product was not shipped, whether it was damaged or it just wasn't on the invoice. You still have to go through those steps to get your credit, but this is just telling your inventory that we did not get 3 cases of 5-pound bagel bags. We only got 2. So that's how you make an adjustment there. Okay, what's next?
Review charges. You may need to scroll down.
So you can review your charges, just make sure everything's there. Here's an item in red. This means that the 50% bid price has changed. The price is more than 50% higher. We just put that in there so you can see what it would look like. And to review our charges, again, we could scroll that, we could pull this item up, make sure that our invoice amount is right. Okay, what's next?
Go to the allocate tab.
All right, right here next to reconcile, I click on the allocate tab. And step number 8.
Add a storage location to a product if applicable.
Okay, so you see here under storage location, I'm just going to scroll down and see if there are any in here that don't have a storage location. And there is not. If it did, it would look like this. Oops, I didn't click it fast enough. It would have these 3 little lines right here. It would just be blank, and you would have to go in and tell it where you want that product to be. And in this case, it was the stockroom. Okay. The other thing we have to do, because we made a change to this product, step number 9, I think is what it is where we're on. It's add a qualitative judgment. Qualitative judgment is just a fancy way of saying, what's the reason? What was the reason we made a change from invoice quantity of 3 to physical quantity of 2? And I'm going to say it was damaged. You guys will have, we only have the 3 options here. You guys will have more options. One of them is product didn't ship. So for this one, I'm just going to put in damage to. We just have to tell the system that there's a reason why we made that adjustment. Okay, what's step number 10?
Go back to the reconcile tab.
All right, back to the reconcile tab. And then step number 11.
Select reconcile to complete the process.
Okay, select reconcile. And now it's giving us this warning that says one invoice is displaying in red, indicating that it's 50% or more than the current issue cost. So again, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just a warning and it's embedded in the crunch time system. So just click OK. All right, and then step 13.
Select OK.
Select OK again. And come on, it's gone. So now it's no longer on our today's task list. We've completed that item. All that information will flow into crunch time. Takes about 15 minutes, but all of that inventory information will now be uploaded into the system. Pretty simple process, right? Any questions on receiving DCP orders? Anything in the chat, Sean?
Nope, nothing in the chat.
Excellent. All right, we're going to keep moving on then. You going to stay with me, Joe? Joe, you sticking with me?
Yeah.
You might have gone back on mute.
Come back,
All
Joe.
right. We're going to move on to page 28. So we showed you how to receive a DCP invoice. Now, those are automatically uploaded from the DCP. Unfortunately, we do not have that same luxury when it comes to CML invoices. So for products coming from the CML, you're going to have to create something called a simple receipt. So Joe, if you're still with us, we're on the top of page 28. It says simple receipts. What is step number 1?
Go to the purchasing on the dashboard.
Okay, so we click on the purchasing dropdown, and then
And you're going to select create simple receipt.
all right, create simple receipt. Okay, next step.
Select CML from the drop-down menu.
You can see CML is the only item we have to choose from. It's the only other vendor we have. Okay.
Enter the information in all fields.
Okay, for the vendor invoice number, the invoice number must be unique to the system. So rather than just put in a random number or a number that could be duplicated, what we're suggesting is you put in your PC number plus the date plus your initials to ensure that you'll always have a unique identifiable vendor invoice number. So for me, I would put in 333-333 1118 DH. Okay. My value, I'm just going to put in $1 for this one. We'll see what comes up. All right. And then step number 5.
Select continue.
All right. We select continue. And it's going to bring up an invoice. Now, in our training environment, we've got some invoices or some items already in here. Yours will be blank. So when you come in here, you can actually pull products in here by going to step number 7. We'll just go through this pretty quickly. It's a pretty easy process, but what's step number 7?
Select the plus to add products.
All right, so click on the plus sign. Then what?
You may select a filter icon to narrow down your search results.
Yeah, so what I would do here is I would go to the product name and either search for donuts to pull in items that I want, or you guys will have a template you can pull from that would actually pull the CML donuts that you have every week, and you would just add them to this item and hit apply. I'm going to tell you right now, we don't have any donuts in our training environment other than the ones that are already pulled in. So when I click on donut, all it pulls up is donut boxes, half dozen boxes, and just baked donut fries. So when you type in the word donut, it's going to say donut, CML, vanilla frosted, donut, CML, all these other different types of products. Okay. And then you would just go into the quantity box and put in the quantities that you had and reconcile your invoice. Okay, so questions on CML invoices. And then when we're done, we would just hit save. I'm not going to put any quantities in here. I don't want to build another invoice for myself. I'm just actually going to close it. But it's that simple. You just pull in your products, add in the quantities, hit save, or hit reconcile, and then hit save, and you'd be done. All right, so now we know how to receive product in. And Joe, I think that might be your last step, my friend. I think you are off the hook. Thank you very much for helping us out.
Okay, thank you.
Now we need to talk about inventory adjustment. Sean, who's our next volunteer?
Kathy is your next volunteer, and I think she is ready to go.
I am.
Yay, Kathy. All right, very good. So Kathy, we're going to be on page 30.
Yep.
So we're going to show you a couple of different things here. We're going to show you how to adjust inventory based on waste. So daily waste, your sandwich station, Red Book waste. We're going to show you how to waste a single item if you have, let's say, a gallon of milk that's expired. And we're going to show you how to add items into your inventory that, your count's already been posted and you found a case of napkins and I need to go ahead and add them back to my inventory. So we'll show you how to do all three of those steps. So on the top of page 30, we're going to do waste first. What does it say step number 1 is?
Go to inventory on the dashboard.
Okay. Step 2.
And then select create inventory adjustment.
Create inventory adjustment is right here. Okay, what's next?
Select retrieve. This will populate all on-hand inventory.
All right, so I click the retrieve button and it's going to bring up everything we've got. So here's all the products we've got. And again, rather than go and search, scrolling, what should I do? Step 3?
Select filter.
Select the filter icon. Okay, so from here, this is going to allow us to filter down what we're looking for. So in this example, I think what we'll do is we'll do the one product. So we're going to try to find 2% milk. So what product name do you think I should look for? Kathy?
Milk.
There you go. Less is more, right? So we're going to type in the word milk and hit apply.
Yeah.
There we go. You see we've got everything with the word milk in it is right here. Okay, this is we're on step number 6, which is?
Select apply.
Okay.
We're on 5.
So we've got the product number. Actually, mine said I'm off a step. Select the product you need to adjust and enter the quantity. So we're going to say 1 gallon of milk, right? So our unit of measure here is gallon. And we're wasting 1. And then it says, select the reason for your quantitative judgment or qualitative judgment. What is the qualitative judgment, Kathy?
It expired.
Exactly. So you can see for this one, it gave us a lot of different choices here. So we're just going to put in expired. Okay, what's the next step?
For multiple products with the same qualitative judgment, select the check boxes under the paste button with the associated product.
Okay. And then what's next?
Select paste.
Okay.
And then select the add selected products buttons.
Add selected products. Oh. All right, so now basically what we've done is we've created an adjustment of 1. It's going, because it's an adjustment, it's going to automatically remove this item from our inventory. What's the next step?
Select save.
Select save. We get this pop-up here that says your inventory adjustment has been saved. So Kathy, let's do those steps again, but this time we're not removing a gallon of milk. We're going to actually add a case of napkins. So you can see here, we just made this adjustment. There it is right here, 11.18. We made an adjustment of $3. All right, so we're gonna go back to step 1. And this time we're gonna add product in. So what's our first step?
Go to inventory on the dashboard.
Yep.
Create inventory adjustment.
Okay.
Then you're going to retrieve it.
Yep.
Select the filter.
My system's moving a little slowly today. All right, select the filter.
Search for product name.
Okay, there it is. All right, what's next?
You're going to enter the quantity of product you wish to add to inventory using a negative value.
Okay, so why do you think we need to use a negative value, Kathy? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Oh, man. You put me on the spot. I don't have an answer for you.
All right, think back to algebra class in 8th grade, right? 2 negatives equal a positive. So if the inventory adjustment feature is automatically removing products you put in here, if I put in 1 quantity, it's going to remove a case of napkins. So in order for me to get it to add a case of napkins, I have to make it a -1. Okay, so we're making a negative adjustment, which is actually adding a case of napkins to our inventory. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
It's the same in how you do it now. All right, what's our qualitative judgment?
Oh, is it overage?
We'll call it incorrect quantity. All right, and then we'll just hit add selected products because it's the only item we have. Oh, I put in a quantity. And save. Okay, and after a second, it just takes a minute. It'll take you back to the adjustments page, and now you can see we've made this $21.52 adjustment as well. I'm going to show you one more, and this is probably the big one, and I'll just run through it quickly. Kathy, you don't have to walk us through the steps again, but what if I want to do my waste based on my Redbook waste sheet? So we would go to inventory. We're going to create an inventory adjustment. Hit retrieve. Okay. Then when we hit the funnel icon, now this is not listed anywhere, so you might want to write this one down. There's not a page that shows how to do this. When the filter screen comes up, you're going to change down here where it says filter by from all to template. And then when you do that, it brings up this box right here that says template, and it allows you to choose from these templates. I'm going to use the Redbook Waste Corporate template. And when I hit apply, all the items that are on the Redbook waste sheet are automatically going to come into this, in the order they're in the Redbook, into this adjustment. And then I can just go here to the amount and start putting in my amounts, put in all my reasons, and be done with my waste sheet pretty quickly. Okay. Again, that step is not really shown how to do that in the process. So I want to make sure you guys. All right, what questions do you guys have about waste, about invoicing, about DCP, about CML? Any questions that have come up so far?
And one request to
Yeah.
just run back through how you pulled up the template.
Okay, so follow along with us. If you go back to page 29, okay, we go to inventory, create an inventory adjustment, hit retrieve. And then when we hit the filter, it's going to bring this box up here, and we have to change the filter by from all to template. Okay, so you'll see right here, if you look at the screen, there is no template to choose from here. But when I change this to template, it pops up. And then I can go in here and choose Redbook Waste Corporate and hit apply. And it changes all your items in here. Are we good?
Yep, nothing else in the chat.
All right. All right, Sean, I think that was everything for us. I think we're going to go with a polling question at this point, are we not?
We sure are. So yeah,
All right.
checked off all of the topics that you had to cover, Dan. So I'll turn it over to you to open up the questions.
Okay, here we go. We've got, looks like 3 questions for you guys. The first one is, which functionality of NetChef would allow a user to record milk or cream as stored in an under-counter refrigerator? Number 2, where would you see the tasks crunch time indicates a user should complete? And number 3, if you were to identify a box of straws that had been missed in counting, which process would you complete to increase the accuracy of your inventory reports? And I know we covered all 3 of these topics, so hopefully we'll see some good answers here.
No pressure, but everybody who's answered so far has gotten their answers correct.
Nice. And I'm sure Jess and Sean told you yesterday, we can't see who answers what way. So feel free, if you don't know the answer, take a guess.
You're still at 100% correct. So maybe we can get this one all the way through.
Cherie, that matcha looks delicious. All right, we're going to give you guys about 5 more seconds. Looks like we're about halfway there. We'll count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so question number 1, which functionality of NetChef would allow a user to record milk or cream as stored in an under-counter refrigerator? Would be secondary storage locations. The counter refrigerator is a secondary, not a primary. All right, where would you see the tasks crunch time indicates a user should complete? That is in today's tasks. Very good. And if you were to identify a box of straws that have been missed in counting, the process you would complete is an inventory adjustment. So great job.
All right. So we are now going to move on to the topics you see listed here. I'm going to be taking you through key counts and full counts. Josie, if you are out there, I'm going to be calling on you next to be a volunteer. And then after that, I'll just throw everybody's names out there so you guys are prepared. I have Kelsey and Dwayne. So Josie, Kelsey, and Dwayne, in that order. I'm going to be asking you to help me out over these next few topics. So key counts and full counts is coming up next. We'll talk about the counter app real quick. Then we're going to go through the process of reviewing, analyzing, and posting your inventory in the system. Finally, a quick discussion about how the items deplete in the new RSVP system. And we'll close out with a quick overview of sales forecasting. All right. So with that, Josie, are you out there?
I am.
All right. And then do you have your guide in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. So we're going to be on page 46 and 47 in your NetChef inventory user guide.
Yep. So step 1, go to inventory on the dashboard.
All right. So Dan, can I just confirm you guys can see my dashboard?
Yep, we got it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so I am on my dashboard here, so you can see my today's tasks just like you saw on Dan's. So I'm on the dashboard, so step 1 is complete. What's the next step?
Step 2, you're going to select create/review inventories.
Okay, so what we're doing now is we are creating a key inventory count. So I know you guys count every single Tuesday. So what we're doing is we're setting up this count in the system to be for your Tuesday count. So as we go through these steps, just keep that in mind. This is something that you guys will have to set up in your system for your Tuesday counts to be input. All right, so thank you. I'm going to go to inventory. And now what? You said create review inventories, correct?
Yep. Review inventories.
Okay.
And then you're going to go to new scheduled inventory.
All right, so I'm going to go to new scheduled inventory. You're going to see I have my post period here. So click on new scheduled inventory.
You're going to select the date that you would like the new scheduled inventory to take place.
Okay, so you have your count scheduled for Tuesday. So that was yesterday. So let's just say I was wanting to have my count scheduled for Tuesday. So I'll pick yesterday's date. And then what do I do after that?
Select the desired section group. It is recommended to use the subcategory section for product filtering.
Correct. So below, you're going to see all of these options here. We have subcategory, microcategory. For you, though, it's actually been made a lot easier. I know Sharia's worked on some templates that are going to be available for you to select here from this template screen. So for you, there's 2 different templates. One is aligned with Just Baked Tuesday counts. One is aligned with those restaurants that are not Just Baked stores. So those 2 inventory templates will be sitting there waiting for you. You would simply select that template, and then you could go on to the next step. So for me, I don't have your Kafua templates, but I will select key counts in the similar fashion that you would select the templates that are available to you. So instead of going down to that category, I'm actually just going to click on key counts. And then what do I do next?
Upper right-hand corner, you're going to select save and close.
Save and close. And then on the bottom of that page, there's a few different boxes with little information icons. Do you mind reading those for everybody?
The new scheduled inventory must be completed prior to completing the regular inventory post period. To schedule multiple inventory key counts in an inventory period on different days, repeat steps 3 through 7, selecting additional desired dates.
Perfect. So before we do that, because I'm going to have you walk us through the steps to copy and schedule those inventory counts, I just want to show you what's here on my screen. So this key count needs to be completed on Tuesday, similar to what you guys are currently doing. You need to complete this key count on Tuesday. This key count needs to be completed before you can do your count that is going to be scheduled for every single Saturday. We're going to talk about that and what that looks like, but this is exactly what you're hoping to see. Your Tuesday count would need to be completed before you can go in, finalize your count for post on close of business on Saturday or essentially Sunday. Okay, so we know that you're going to have these counts scheduled for every single Tuesday. So rather than have to go in and schedule it for every single Tuesday, you can actually copy and edit a scheduled inventory, which is on that next page. So on page 45, or I think it's maybe 47 for you guys, actually, I'm 1 page off. How do I copy and edit those counts, that template we just created?
Step 1 says that you would select copy scheduled inventory.
All right, so I'm actually just going to go back to my, right here. So I'm going to go to copy scheduled inventory here. Okay.
Select desired days you would like the new scheduled inventory to reoccur.
All right, so I'm going to select my inventory, and then I have all of my post periods here. So you're going to see that this is scheduled for Tuesday. We recommend, and you can see there again on that information icon, that you're not going to want to schedule for much more than 2 to 4 weeks because you can't delete these once they're scheduled in the system. So if you know you're going to have these every single Tuesday for as far into the future as necessary, schedule these as far as you need to. Just know you can't delete them. So once they're scheduled in the system, they have to be completed before you can go into posting inventory at the end of the week. So I'm just going to actually select 4 post periods. that I want to copy this template into. So for the next 4 weeks, or really the next month, those Tuesday counts are already going to be in there waiting for me to input. Okay, so once I do that, what do I do?
You are going to select save and close.
Save and close. And then what you should see, and you're going to see this post period, which is this week, has my Tuesday count and my end of week count. I also, if I go into the next week, you're going to see the same thing. So it's already been scheduled for me. It's there. If you didn't do that copy and paste feature, essentially, you would have to go in and add these counts in every single week. So now for the next month, I know my Tuesday count is scheduled in the system, along with the one that's already put in there for us, which is the count that needs to be completed or input at the close of business on Saturday. Okay, so that is how to schedule your key counts. You're also going to see in here the one we call final for post, which is going to be your Saturday count. So thank you, Josie. I also have up next, Kelsey. So Josie, again, thank you for taking us through those steps. Kelsey, are you there?
Yes.
All right, so Kelsey, you're going to take us through the steps, which are on pages 42 through 45. So now we're going to talk about inputting information into these counts. So we have our counts scheduled. Now, how do we input information into the counts? And really, how do we take inventory? So these are on pages 42 through 45. It should say inventory count data entry options in NetChef at the top of the page. So to input information into my inventory, what am I going to do?
Step one, you're going to using your paper count sheets.
Step one I have as go to inventory on the dashboard. Oh, yes, correct. Using your paper count sheets. Thank you. I didn't see the orange text there.
Okay, so step one, go to inventory on the dashboard.
Okay.
Step two, select create/review inventories.
A second there from the dropdown. All right.
Step three, select post period.
So I'm going to go to this week's post period so I can input my Tuesday count. Okay.
Step four, click the count sheet link for that post period.
So I click on the count sheet here. Now this count sheet and ours, well, my key count isn't really quite set up, so I'll probably show you what it looks like for the full inventory. But this key count will be set up with a template for all of the items that you guys need to count on Tuesday. You can choose to print your count sheets and do the paper and pen or pencil, and then take all of those counts and input them in the back office, or you can choose the counter app, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. So actually, you know what, just so you have a better representation of what it would look like, I'm going to use the count sheet for the end of week count, so you can see all of the items. And you're going to see, like Dan set up with you, you have your primary storage positions. You're going to have your secondary positions as well that are listed where you can enter your counts. All of this setup, all of the sequences, all of these items are in the order that you would have set up. So the more time you put in setting up your storage locations here in the system and sequencing in the correct order, the more time you're going to save when it's actually time to start entering your counts, because now you don't have to flip the pages or scroll through the screens and try to figure out where things are. They're in the order of the exact layout of your store. Okay, so I have my screen here. So what's next?
Step five, select the printer icon to print a template count sheet.
Yeah, so this is if you choose to print the pages. Now you're going to see here, there's a bunch of different export options. You can export this as a PDF, Excel, or a CSV file, whatever you want to choose. Different landscape and letter options here for how you want it to look on the page. And then there's also a way, if you choose, to do page break on storage location. So what this will do is it will separate the pages. So if you are choosing to use paper and pen to do your counts still, if you select this, what this will do is this will break the page. So if you wanted to, you can hand the pages for the sandwich station to one person while somebody else is in the freezer, rather than having a half a page with some things from the freezer and some things from the sandwich station. So just a few options here. I'm actually going to select that because it makes a ton of sense when it's time to count, especially if you're using a few people to help you out during this process. I skipped ahead, but the next step was to hit export. And then I'm just going to open this up so you can see what this looks like. So here's my file here. I did page break on storage location. So you're going to see BR stockroom here is my first storage location. And I'll just scroll down. I'll try to get to some of the Duncan options. So like Dan was showing as his example, the DD freezer as the primary storage location. You could go in and enter all of your counts on paper, but again, in turn, you'd have to then take those counts and type them into the system in the back office. So if you scroll down, you're just going to see that, again, page break at each location, and it's going to be a lot easier to enter those counts. So this is if you choose to use the paper counts to where you would have access to your count sheet and then be able to write down those counts as you're walking around the store counting your inventory. All right, so once I've done that, once I've exported that and I've printed those pages to take my counts, what is my last step there?
Select close.
All right, so now I'm going to select close. All right, so that was a way to access the count sheet. Now, how would you go in and actually enter your inventory? I believe this is on, let's see, step 10. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Once category return to the physical inventory screen, select data entry to begin entering inventory counts. Yes. So now step 9, sorry. What is that next step?
Step 10, enter inventory unit and alternate unit quantities.
All right. So now I need my data entry option to pop up here. So Dan, I may actually have to ask you to share your screen with us because mine isn't allowing us to do it because we're not on the day quite yet.
All right. You want to unshare? I'll share mine.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go back to the dashboard. All right, and then you want to go to?
Yep, so we're going to go to inventory.
Yep.
Create review inventories. And then there we go. So typically what you'll see is you're going to have the data entry field available when it's time to enter all of the information into crunch time. On mine, you didn't see it because it's prior to the day that you're allowed to enter the information. All right, so we had step 9. We're going to actually click data entry. And then I know you picked this up with step 10, which was to enter inventory unit and alternate unit quantities. So here's where if you had been taking your counts, entered those on those paper count sheets, you would now take those counts that you have written down and transfer that information here into the system. So for step 10, we'll just go ahead and enter a few items. So if we go to beverage cooler, Dan, if you can just enter like 5 apple juice. And those are by, and you're going to see we have different units here. So we have by the bottle, we also have by the case. So there's different alternate units of measure that you can enter into the system. So if you had 2 cases and 5 extra bottles, well, on that second line there for apple juice, you could enter 2 for the case count. So there's different ways to enter this information. You will see all of these different alternate units of measure available for the different products throughout the system. All right, so once we've entered all of our counts.
We had I think we got away from where we are in the books. We had a couple people in the chat ask what page we're on.
Oh, so right now in my guide, it's page 41, but I believe for everybody else, it is going to be page 43. We're basically on step 10.
Enter inventory unit and alternate unit quantities, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It could be 42 or 43. In my book, it's 41. So I apologize. We have just different versions of the same guide. All right. Thank you, Robin. Page 43. Okay, so we went through step 10, Kelsey. So what was the next step? What's step 11?
Select by exception to fill in any unentered counts with the system expected number.
Okay, so what we've done, so if this was your Tuesday count, the counts that you input on Tuesday are all of the required items that you need to count on Tuesday. So the expectation would be is that you would enter a count for every item on your count sheet. On Saturday, however, there's going to be some Saturdays you count, some Saturdays you don't count. Some of the Saturdays you count are going to be the ones that you have at the end of the month. For every single week, and I know Cherie and your leadership team can chime in and clear this up, but there's going to be other times where you don't have to input a count. Every week that's not a week that's your last week of the month, you would just enter by exception. So what by exception is going to do is it's going to fill in all of the uncounted items with what we call the book value or the theoretical value, meaning everything that was run in through the POS will now be the number that fills in to the quantity. So when you hit by exception here, you're going to see after Dan clicks this button, all of those unentered values will fill with the theoretical value. So whatever the POS says we sold, it's now going to say, okay, you sold this through the POS. This is what we think you have. So here's what the system generated number is for what's expected for those items. What you don't want to do is if you're not counting an item, you do not want to enter zeros into those fields. 0 means 0. So if you entered 0 into, let's just say we didn't count Monster Energy. If we entered 0 there instead of by exception, it's going to override what the system thinks you have and actually say that you have 0. So I know that was something that came up in previous sessions, so I just wanted to clear that up. So let me just back up and kind of recap what we did here. Every Tuesday, you're going to input all of your counts. You're going to have your template that you pull down. You will actually physically type in your counts for every one of those. Saturdays that are not at the end of the month, you would just hit by exception for your entire count. There would be no need to enter any counts into the system. Saturdays that are your last count of the month, you will enter the items that you are supposed to count for that time. And then any items that you're not supposed to count for that time, you would hit by exception for. So the book value or the theoretical value will populate for your quantities. And again, this is all the procurement management process that I'm just kind of recapping here. So if Cherie or anybody wants to just clear that up, if I wasn't clear, then please at this time just feel free to chime in. I see Cherie shaking her head, so I think I did an okay job.
Right on point, Sean. You got it.
Thank you. I'm trying here. I'm trying. I tried. Okay. Okay. So once we've hit by exception now, what is the next step that we're going to hit? What's the next step we're going to do?
Step 12, select save and review to finalize or save and close to revisit later.
All right. So at this point, we will hit save and review. Okay. So Kelsey, that gets us through entering the inventory counts. The next step is to review and analyze. So basically what we're doing here during this step is we're reviewing the inventory. So Dwayne, are you out there?
I am here.
All right, Dwayne, you are going to be on pages 48 through 50. So again, Kelsey, thank you so much for walking us through those steps. Dwayne, you're going to walk us through the steps. Once we've entered the count, how do we review, analyze, and post? So we're going to review, analyze, and post this inventory count.
All right. So we're going to go to inventory on the dashboard.
Okay. So Daniel,
we're going to select create review inventories.
All right, so now you're going to see that inventory that we just input our counts for. You're going to see now that we had the count sheet and only data entry available earlier. Now that we've entered that data, you're going to see a few more fields have become available for us. One is review, one is view. So now that we've done this and we've gone to create review inventories, what's my next step?
We are going to select review.
Yes, we're going to hit review. Yeah, and Dan, we could probably just hit continue for this, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is my next step after I hit review?
For step 4, we're going to navigate the quality tab.
So right now you're going to see there's 3 tabs on the side of the screen. We are on the quantity tab. And then you're going to see that this is going to show you the inventory based by quantity. So these are all unit numbers here that you're looking at. You can also, if you wanted to have a different look at the next tab, which is value. So if you click on that next tab, this is going to be the dollar amount associated with those quantities. So the value of all of the items that you've counted for your inventory. And then if you look at analysis, it's a combination of the two. So that's where you're going to see the physical quantity and the value of that quantity associated with those items. So 3 different tabs that you're going to see there to look at all of your information. Okay, so I know I just kind of stole a few steps from you there, Dwayne. I just wanted to show you those tabs. So one other thing before we jump to step 6. there is a chart that's in the center of your page that gives you a really good representation of how to analyze some of the variances that you're looking at. So if you have a negative or a positive variance, it walks you through a few different questions of if the physical quantity is much lower than the beginning quantity, what should you do? And then there's a few other examples there. So I would definitely tell you, as you guys are reviewing your counts and reviewing your inventory, take a look at that page because it gives you a lot of great pointers on how to analyze some of this data. Okay, so what is step 6 for us, Dwayne? So let's say I wanted to make changes to this inventory count.
So we're going to select edit to make changes to the inventory counts if applicable.
Okay, so we clicked edit. Now, if we needed to make a change, let's just say my Monster Energy count there was off. Here, before I get to the finalization of posting, I can say, you know what? I just made all of my counts and I realized that I had 6 cans or 1 case of Monster Energy. Dan, whatever's easy for you to enter.
Okay.
So once I've entered those changes, Dwayne, what do I hit next?
Save and close.
Yep, so we can go to save and close. So what we've essentially done now is we've reviewed that inventory. So what are we going to do now? What's the next step?
Next, we're going to go to the inventory on the dashboard.
Okay.
And we're going to select create review inventories.
Yeah, so what the book has us doing is a lot of circling back around. What you'll notice is it really just brings us right back to where we were. So if you were doing all of these steps separate, this is how you would navigate to it. But really what we could have done is just gone step by step through that process field there and clicked on the next step, which you're going to tell us to do, which is what? What are we selecting?
We're going to select on view.
Yep, so now we're going to hit view. Okay, so once we've done this now, we're just viewing for any last minute changes that we might want to see. So we're viewing our final inventory here. This is going to be the last step that we take before we post inventory and close out our inventory. All right, so once we've done this now, what do we click next, Wayne?
So after verifying inventory, we're going to select close.
All right. So the very next steps, what does it say is the last step we need to do to post our inventory? Everything looks good. We double checked all of our counts. How are we going to close this period out and enter those counts into the system and post them?
So if we go to the inventory quick links on the dashboard, we're going to select post inventory.
All right. So from the dashboard, as Dan scrolls down, you're going to see in the center there, we have a bunch of quick links and posting inventory is one of those. So when we get down to posting inventory, that's the last step, Dan. We'll click on that. All right. Don't know why that happened. Maybe just go back in through the inventory and then maybe, I guess it seems like somewhere we didn't hit save. So maybe go to review real quick and then save and close. I think through jumping around, we didn't hit save and close. So now it says status complete. So, okay. So you'll see the value in hitting save and close. I think through the steps in the book, I had kind of jumped around a little bit. But you do want to make sure you hit save and close there, or it's going to stop you and say that you haven't reviewed your inventory. And then now, once we hit post inventory, like Dwayne said, we have all of our period purchases that are listed, the period consumption that's listed, and then finally the value of your ending inventory. So what is my last step there, Dwayne?
You're going to click on post inventory. So hit the post button.
Okay. So what we've done there is we've gone through the steps of getting your paper sheets, writing down your counts, and taking those counts, transferring them to crunch time, and entering them on the specific day that you need to enter your counts, whether it's Tuesday or Saturday. Again, by exception is going to fill in any of the unentered items with the book value or the theoretical value for yourself. Once you've done all of that, you need to go through and post that inventory, which is closing out that inventory. So any questions about that process so far? Because now I'm going to show you how to use the counter app rather than possibly the paper count sheets. So any questions? it looks like Cherie sent me a question. It says, does NetChef have highlights? So Dan, I'll let you take this, but from what I recall, it's not highlighting in the same fashion that we had in Radiant. You can sort your variances by amount. So it'll bring all of your high variances to the top rather than having them highlighted randomly throughout the sheet.
Yeah, you're right, Sean. You can definitely sort it ascending or descending. I was kind of showing that while we were in there in that in the review tab, but it's not going to give you the different colors unless you were to export it to Excel. You could build your own formulas to do that, but no, it won't do that automatically.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. All right. If there's any other questions as we move on, please feel free to type those in. So the next thing I want to do, and I'm actually going to jump into my PowerPoint here, is I want to show you the counter app. Let me just maximize this real quick. So we went through the key counts and the full counts. Now I'm going to show you how to use the counter app. So circle back for a second before review, analyze, and post, and let's talk about the paper count sheets. So if you want to use the paper count sheets, by all means, they exist. You can continue to use those. One thing I would recommend is give this a shot. So this can potentially save you a ton of time, and you'll see why. So there's another guide that we have in your binders if you were Seed Store and received a binder. If not, this is also available on OpSource. So this is going to be your Crunch Time mobile apps user guide. On page 5 in that guide, it's going to walk you through steps 1 through 7, which are all about getting through the setup of the counter app on your mobile device or on your tablet. So you will have your login, you will have your URL, which is the same exact URL that you have for NetChef. That's what you would enter for the URL. And then once you've entered that information, you would click login. Once you are logged in, you're going to see over here, step 8, we have a bunch of different locations. So step 8 over here is going to show me all of the locations that I have access to. Restaurant manager, more than likely, you're just going to have access to the restaurant that you're responsible for. Multi-unit manager, you may have multiple units that you're going to see here from the dropdown. So you will select the restaurant that you are going to be entering your counts in. Once you've done that, you're now going to see on the right side, which is step 9, it's going to show you the available counts that you have. You remember, this is going to be the count, this final for post. This is going to be the count that is automatically in the system for every single Saturday. The ones that you've scheduled will also show up here. So if you've scheduled your Tuesday counts in the system, whether it's 1 or for the next 6 months, those will show up prior to this Saturday count. So when you log into your counter app, you'll have the ability to select your Tuesday count or your Saturday count. And then once you've selected that count, you will go on to step 10, which is selecting your storage locations. So you're going to see all of these storage locations are going to mirror what you've set up when Dan took you through the sequencing and storage locations demonstration earlier. So everything that you've set up in the system is going to mirror what you're going to see here in the app. So once you've selected the storage location that you want to count, you would then select the lock here, and then that's going to claim this storage location. So you're going to hit this freezer. Actually, you're not going to select the lock. I'm sorry. You're going to hit this freezer line. Once you are into this storage location, which you can see up here is freezer, you're going to select claim down at the bottom of the screen. That's going to lock that location for you to enter your counts for. Other people can also be counting these other storage locations at the same time as you're counting the freezer, but you don't have the ability to have numerous people counting on different devices the same storage location. All right, so right now I've selected the freezer. I've claimed the freezer. So that's going to allow me now to start entering counts into the freezer. The way this is set up in the freezer is going to, again, match the exact way you've sequenced your storage location. So ideally, this filled cinnamon bagel is going to be the first item that you would see on the left. Right next to that, you'd have your filled everything bagel. Right after that, the filled plain bagel. And you would just walk through your freezer, entering your counts. And then once you've entered all of your counts for that entire storage location, you would then go over to the top right and you would hit save to save your counts. After that, you have entered all of your counts for the freezer. You may choose to enter counts for other storage locations. But at the end of this process, the important thing to do is hit this sync button. What this sync button is going to do is it's going to take all of the information you've just entered into your counts, whether it was you or numerous people walking around the store entering counts at the same time, and it's going to take all of those counts and automatically input those into where we had to go to data entry in NetChef. So think about the amount of time it would have taken to retype in all of those counts that you wrote on the paper. All of that time gets removed. All of the information that you typed in to the app will automatically populate into where you would enter your data entry for inventory. So the counter app, a huge opportunity here to save a ton of time. And again, even have numerous people counting at the same time in the different areas of the store, all able to sync that information up to the back office and get you to this next step, which we already went through, which was to review, analyze, and post. So totally up to you how you guys want to handle entering your counts. You have the paper count sheets or the counter app. But once you've done both of those, it goes back to the steps that we just showed you, which was to review, analyze, and post inventory. That always has to take place on a computer in the back office. Okay, so any questions about entering inventory, the different ways to enter inventory, possibly any questions about review, analyzing, or posting inventory before I get to the next step, which is to talk about depletions in the system and how the items deplete in RSVP.
And I have a question about the counter app.
Sure.
What does single sign-on mean? And should they click it or not? I've gotten that question a few times in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm probably not going to do this justice with describing this correctly. So single sign-on, from when and Dan, feel free to chime in with this also. Single sign-on allows you to use one login for multiple platforms. So I know I use single sign-on quite a bit for the tons of different sites that we have available to us with Dunkin', and it makes it to where I don't have to use different names, different passwords. I'm able to use just one across the different platforms that I have available to me. So I'm not sure if I'm describing that perfectly right. I just know in my head, it makes my life a ton easier to use single sign-on.
Okay, no, the answer makes sense because I can go ahead and I can clarify that when somebody asks. It's not something that we use right now, but at least I know what it is.
Yeah. Dan, anything you would add to that?
No, I would have said it the same way.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'm just going to jump onto depletion. But again, feel free to type those in or come off of mute. Just go ahead and ask us. So let's talk about depletion. Now, items deplete a little bit differently in RSVP than they did in the Radiant system, meaning that the items that we deplete in the RSVP system, it's a lot more specific to what you've entered into the POS. Whereas in Radiant, we were using a lot of behind the scenes formulas that would say, you know, for this size coffee, we're going to automatically take out this much dairy and, you know, this much sweetener. So for us now, it's a lot more specific to ringing to detail. So what we're going to do is just review some of these pages. And let me just remind you where this is in your book. I think I have page 55. So it should be in and around page 55. There's a bunch of different tables that you're going to see that talk about depletion. Now, what you're going to see on the screen here is a reference to the beverages. And I'm not going to go through line by line for every single item, but I am going to just flip back real quick to my guide. Just give me 1 second here. And this is in the NetChef inventory user guide again, by the way. I'm just circling back to that to talk about depletion. Okay, so just looking at this.
Just a heads up, Christina Donuts made a point. It's 58 in their guides.
58. All right, I'm going to make sure that from now on, I'm reprinting every single one of mine, so mine match up exactly with the pages. But this is just going to be a thing that you're constantly dealing with. We are wanting to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information in everybody's hands. So that means constant updating of the guides and the books, which is a good thing because we make sure that we're not out of date. But it does lead to some challenges on our side when we have a guide that's just a little bit different with the page numbers. Okay, so just looking at this, and I'm just going to use an example probably just from one of each of these. You'll see when you bring in a hot or an iced original coffee, this is going to deplete automatically the cup and the lid, And in this case, since it's an original coffee, it's going to deplete original blend. And you're going to see on the far right side, it's going to deplete by size. So it knows if you ring in a hot original blend coffee, it's going to deplete. If it's a small, it's going to deplete a small cup. It's going to deplete the lid. And it's also going to deplete the amount of coffee that would come in an original blend small coffee. So it's the same across all of those, whether it's hot iced original, hot iced dark, or hot iced decaf. As you get into the espresso, you're going to see this chart as well. You're going to see if it's a hot or iced latte original, it'll deplete your cup, your lid, the espresso beans, and in this case, whole milk, that will deplete again by size. The only one that starts to get a little tricky is when you get into decaf. Now at the bottom of page 58, there's a bullet point there that references this, and it just says for decaf espresso, both the espresso decaf bean and decaf pods will be depleted. So you guys know we have two different pieces of equipment when it comes to making espresso. So the system doesn't know what piece of equipment you have. So it will deplete both of those items in the system, regardless of what you actually use. So if you're not using decaf pods, it doesn't matter anyway, because it's just depleting something you don't have. Just something to be aware of, one of the notes that are in the guide there. So you can just look at this chart and kind of see everything is basically at this point depleting by size. Now, as you get into some of the other items here, we also have the depletions by Coulada. When you look at this coffee panel here, this is probably going to be the one that you're most interested in. When you're looking at cream, whole milk, flavor swirls, flavor shots, they're depleted with each button, pump, or push, as you can see here on the screen. So rather than having this deplete by size, so if I rang in a small coffee with cream, it doesn't just automatically assume the standard amount of cream that goes into a small coffee. It's going to deplete based on the number that you press prior to cream. So if I said small coffee to cream, it would deplete 0.5 ounces for every time I entered a number in front of cream. So in that case, if I did 2 cream, it would deplete 1 ounce of cream. And that's how this is going to be a lot more accurate than what we used to have with Radiant, because a lot of that information was just kind of happening behind the scenes. A lot of that depletion was just happening behind the scenes. As you look over here to a lot of your sugars and your sweeteners, you're going to see that it's going to deplete 1 teaspoon, again, based on what you've pressed. So if you hit 2 sugar or 3 sugar, it's going to deplete each one of those teaspoons based on the number that you've entered. And then when it comes to packets, it will not deplete a packet. Actual will be theoretical. So basically, it's going to take that information that's been rung in or entered on your side into your inventory and assume that what you actually have is what was theoretically used. For the espresso panel, same thing. You can see how items deplete as it relates to the dairy for the espresso. Bakery, cream cheese, full production, ton of different stuff here. I'll just jump around a little bit. At the top, you see bakery. Donuts, they do not deplete by variety. So they are automatically going to deplete what's called no variety in the system. I know your leadership team has already discussed how to price those in the system. So as you're depleting those no variety donuts, it also has a cost associated with it. So no worries there. I know they've taken care of that, or they're working on that. So same thing with munchkins. They're going to deplete munchkin no variety. So that's how they're going to deplete your bakery items in the system. When you get to the right side of the screen, though, you will see a bagel will deplete by variety. A muffin will deplete by variety. Same with the fancies and a lot of your carriers, English muffin, croissant, Texas toast, and biscuit. So if you rang in a sandwich on Texas toast, it knows automatically to deplete 2 slices of Texas toast as part of your recipe. Cream cheese, a bunch of different ways cream cheese depletes. The one big one that you're going to want to be aware of is when you're ringing in a bagel with cream cheese, is to make sure that you actually select that button the correct way, because it's going to make sure that in this case, plain bagel with cream cheese depletes the actual cream cheese on the bagel and not one of the single serving pucks that would come with the different flavors that are available. So just make sure you're ringing in those correctly. Full production, you can see here listed. No full production items will deplete. Actual will be theoretical. So what you've entered as your count will also be what is input into the theoretical field. So a ton of information regarding depletion. It's all starting on page 58 if you want to scroll back through and just kind of get a look at it and become familiar with it. But I guess the key message when it comes to depletion is ring to detail. The more accurately you are ringing items in through the POS, the more accurate the depletions will be, and your actual and your theoretical and your variances will match up a lot closer to reality in your system. So that's my one big thing there. So keep ringing to detail. So your depletions will be accurate, and then your actual versus theoretical will be a lot closer in the system, hopefully. All right, any questions about depletion now at this point? All right, I don't see anything in the chat. So I'm going to move on to the very, very last topic that we have here for you. And I do have one more volunteer. And Kelsey, I'm going to ask you to come back off of me because I know you helped me earlier. You are the one that is the lucky one to take us home here with this last topic of sales forecasting. So this is going to be in the NetChef Labor User Guide. Kelsey, are you still out there?
Yep.
All right. I didn't know if my depletion conversation started getting everybody tired and sleepy, so I'm glad you're still here. All right. So depletions now. I'm sorry, depletions. Sales forecasting. I'm going to be on page 13 in the NetChef Labor User Guide. And this is going to be where you are going to input or at least review your sales forecast. The whole reason that you're using this for you as Kafua Management, your network, is to help make your prep reports accurate based on what you're expecting as far as sales. So we're going to go through, we're going to show you how to review your sales forecast to make sure that they're accurate. So everything that comes after that as far as reporting is going to reflect what you hope it would be for your prep reports and any additional reports that you might use as well. Okay, so what are we going to do? What is step one for reviewing a sales forecast?
Go to sales on the dashboard.
All right, so I'm going to get out of my PowerPoint here. And can I just confirm that you guys see my NetChef dashboard?
Oh, we're still on the PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you. How's that?
There you go.
Perfect, cool. All right, so I'm going to go to sales now. We've been spending all of our time here in inventory. I'm actually going to navigate away from that now here. We're going to go to sales. Now, what do I select next?
Select Manage Sales Forecast.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to my third option here, which is Manage Sales Forecasts. Okay.
Select the week ending date you want to forecast.
Sure, so let's say I want to look to the week of the 28th, and I want to get out ahead of this and manage my sales forecast for the week of November 28th. So I'd select this week ending date. Okay. What's my next step?
Select the specific day or date.
So yeah, so now we're going to select, you know what, let me go back to a different one because this didn't pull in information for all these other days. Let me just show you another one that we had. If I go to this week, 11/20. So I selected my day or my week ending date, like you said. And now what I'm doing is I'm simply reviewing this information. There's a ton of information on the bottom of page 12 where it talks about expanding and collapsing the different fields. And Kelsey, I'm just gonna have you hold off for 1 second because I know we're getting into editing some of these changes or editing some of these numbers. Just wanted to show you these fields, how you can expand and collapse each one of these. So there's a lot of information here. You have your historical and projected data below. You also have a breakdown of day part down here as well. So mine are expanded right now. All of mine are expanded to allow me to see these. When you first log in, yours will probably be collapsed. So when you see day part forecast, if you don't see any information like you see here on mine, just expand the field. It'll give you the ability to see a breakdown of what it's expecting for sales for each one of those day parts throughout the day. So one thing to mention when it comes to sales forecasting, this is taking 4 weeks of data that you've rung in through your system, and it's giving you a projected forecast based on that information. If you're converting over from a Radiant location, it's going to be pulling in 18 months of historical data, but it's only going to be this top line total forecasted sales information. It's not going to break it down by day part, until you have 4 weeks of information rung in through your new RSVP system. So keep that in mind. Once you get 4 weeks, it'll break it down by date part, and you'll be able to see all of the information that I have down below. So it's taken 4 weeks of information, and that's where these projections are coming from. But, and I know we're getting to what Kelsey's telling us to do next, is we can make changes to this. So if I know Thursday, there is a festival in town, there's a parade coming through town, and this $7,000 that the system has told me we projected, I know we're gonna do more than that. So step one was to select the day or the date. So I've selected this Thursday I wanna make a change to. Now, Kelsey, what's step two?
Enter the new amount.
Yeah, so new amount. Now I would expect, you know, my fares coming through town, let's say we expect an additional $1,000 to my total forecasted sales. So I would just highlight that field and make that change. What is the next step that I would do?
Select apply day part / revenue center forecast values.
Correct. So this is going to be essentially what is going to take this $8,000 and it's going to distribute that $8,000 throughout the different day parts that I have for my day. There's a percentage that's allocated to each one of those day parts based on previous sales. So it's going to take that $8,000, that $1,000 difference, apply that percentage to each of the day parts, and then spread that forecast out. One other thing just before I hit this button that I want to call out. When you make this change to $8,000, it's not automatically going to update your total forecasted guests. So you're going to see I have $8,000 entered. I have 1,400 guests. So when I click out of this $8,000 field, you're going to see it took my $8,000 and my 1,400 guests, and it changed my average sales per guest from $5 to $571. So if that's not accurate, you need to make sure that you also change the expected amount of guests that you would have to be a lot more in line with what you might see as your average ticket. So depending again on what you forecast your sales, you would want to update your forecasted guests in the same fashion. And then that's going to be what delivers you your average sales per guest. Once you made all of your changes though, you've gone through every day, you feel good about the projections, you've made changes if they're necessary. The last thing you're going to do, like Kelsey said, is to hit this apply day part revenue center forecasted values button. You will get this prompt, and then from there you will hit OK. And then the very last step, Kelsey, what is that going to be for me to do?
Select save.
Yep, step 4. My last step is this fun little floppy disk over here, and I'm going to hit save. It'll prompt me again just to verify that I'm wanting to continue. And once I've done that, it will again have taken my sales forecast, saved it in the system. So now any reports that you're running that are based on this sales forecast, they're going to reflect the information that you've either verified or changed here in the system. All right, thank you again, Kelsey, for reading those steps for me, walking us through that. All right, so back to my PowerPoint here. We have now gone through all of the topics you see there. We talked about key counts and full counts, the counter app, review, analyzing, and posting. We talked about depletion, and we've now talked about sales forecasting. So we want to ask you a few questions, just like we did earlier. And I'm going to open our last poll here. And you're going to see on the screen a few different questions. Question 1 is, which of the following reports are dependent on inventory posting? Not quite sure I actually went through this, but we'll see if you guys can get that answer. Number 2, which inventory taking method allows multiple users to take inventory of different storage locations at the same store at the same time and syncs with crunch time? And then lastly, selecting by exception will fill in any unentered counts with the system expected number. Is that true or is that false? All right, so we have about 3 of you so far that have got your answers in. So just give you a little while longer to get some of those responses in. In the meantime, if there's any questions as we're getting ready to close out today's session, feel free to type those in as well. All right, I'm going to close this one out in 5 seconds. So any last submissions you guys can sneak in, go ahead and hit submit and get those in for us. Close this out in 3 seconds, 2, and 1. All right, so let's see. So question 1, which of the following reports are dependent on inventory posting? Select all that apply. All of those are correct except for the last one there, which is the menu mix report. So hot holding, sales forecast, your prep report, and the actual theoretical report all rely on inventory posting. The menu mix report does not. Number 2, which inventory taking method allows multiple users to take inventory of different storage locations at the same store at the same time and syncs with crunch time? That is going to be using the counter app. And number 3, selecting by exception will fill in any unentered counts with the system expected number, also known as book value or theoretical value. So the correct answer for that is true. All right, so we have now covered all of our topics for the day. And of course, we want to make sure if there's any other questions that you have, that you are able to get those answered. So feel free now to type in any questions that you have or come off of mute and just go ahead and ask us. And like yesterday, Becky or Cherie or Heidi, if there's anything you want to add, feel free to chime in.
I think just one call out I have for everybody, let's make sure that we are now working on e-learning with our team. Make sure that they are doing those steps so that you can prepare for your launch. Our crew members.
Yeah, really good point. There's a bunch of courses out there too that are really helpful, and they're in really small chunks if you just want to have them start working on those. All right, well, I don't see anything coming through in the chat, and I don't hear anybody come off of mute to ask any questions. So I just want to say thank you guys for the last 2 days. I know it's hard sometimes sitting in front of the computer for 2 hours, but I appreciate the time that you've given us for the last couple of days, and good luck with everything. And of course, any questions that you have, feel free to bubble those up through your leadership team, and we'll try to help out if there's anything you guys need. So have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody. All right, I think it's just us now.
Looks like it.
So thank you guys again for helping us out today with all of these. Cherie, Heidi, Becky, any other stuff that you want to